I'm Rachel Addison.
And I'm Miles Stokes.
And we're the hosts of Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men, a weekly podcast all about the ins, outs, and retcons of our favorite superhero soap opera.
We're also the hosts of Rachel and Miles Review the X-Men,
which you're watching right now,
where we talk about the X books that come out each week.
This week we're going to be looking at the books of July 15th, 2015, but first I feel like we should probably take a minute and talk about the movie designs that got revealed today.
So X-Men Apocalypse, we've now seen most of the principal characters, roughly how they're going to look in the movie.
Including the principal villain.
Yes, including Apocalypse and all of his giant blue glory.
Yes.
So people have been complaining about this. They've said it's like too silly or looks too Power Rangers.
You know, I want to address that first point and say that if your objection to Cinematic Apocalypse is that he's not true to the comics because he looks silly, your memory of the comics is strikingly selective. Apocalypse is ridiculous looking.
I'm just saying, stretchy turtleneck, hammer hands, initial on his belt in case his belt gets lost. I think what's really going to sell it or not is the actor who's playing Apocalypse's performance of him. If he can get that kind of megalomaniacal gravitas, then the appearance, I think, will just fall into place and look right. I mean, remember what people were saying about Quicksilver, you know?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, for me, it is kind of all down to Oscar Isaac and how he plays the character. I like that there are explicitly and clearly ancient Egyptian motifs in the design. That's something that was missing from his original. It's very much part of the roots of the character, as Brett White pointed out on Twitter today. And yeah, I'm withholding judgment because I thought Quicksilver looked dumb as hell too. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, new Quicksilver and Mystique are they're so N7. Why has no one been photoshopping Mass Effect things on that body armor?
Seriously, I'm just saying, we know our Mass Effect, and yes, very much that.
I don't actually have any Mass Effect tattoos, but I'm also familiar with
Mine's awesome enough for the both of us.
My best friend's the editor.
There you go. Other characters. I mean, we've seen Psylocke. She looks like Psylocke.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish they'd gone with the X-Force design, but, you know.
Chris Anka's design.
If they were going to go with the swimsuit, I feel like they did a pretty good take on it.
Mm-hmm. Storm's got a mohawk. You guys, yes. It's the 80s, and Storm's got a mohawk. All is right in the world.
Can we talk about Lana Condor and her just pitch-perfect Jubilee?
Yeah, I'm really a fan. It's going to be kind of weird having Jubilee there at the genesis of the X-Men, but whatever, movie timeline.
But look at her, she's Jubilee, like she just is. She's Jubilee.
I totally buy it.
She's like it's like hearing Kevin Conroy's voice and seeing Batman animated. It's just it's perfect.
Mm-hmm. We also got in Entertainment Weekly some descriptions of each of the characters.
Yeah,
with some interesting phrasing.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna file that one under the last minute copy. Umbrella and not really take it seriously, except that it's funny.
You guys, Cyclops is a bad boy, just like we all knew in our
hearts. Did you see the picture that David Wynn drew based on that?
I did not.
I'm gonna put it up on the screen for a sec.
So anyway, all of that said, we have not very many comics to review. We have one full issue and one story from an anthology book. Let's talk about those. We'll start off with the first full issue, and only full issue this week, which is Years of Future Past, number 3, written by Marguerite Bennett, with art by Mike Norton, and colors by Fco Placencia. And so we had a really strong number 3 in Inferno last week, a really strong number 3 in Years of Future Past this week. It's hard to do middle chapters right. This one really does it. And what it also does is kind of cement what started off in number 2, which is this book is kind of the smart, philosophical, character and personality focused, and just idea focused book of the X part of Battleworld. On
a tangential note, I could really get used to this publishing schedule.
This is way easier for our job here. That's true. We see, the plans of the rebel mutants continuing. We also get introduced to a couple of new characters, one of which is the Years of Future Past version of Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler, and he is awesome. So, Doom is God in this world, so of course he's a priest of God Doom, which is weird, but also totally works. But he's also still got... The book doesn't make the same mistake some X books do, which is to have, when Kurt is being religious, him being, like, super dour and glum. He's still got that swashbuckly, mischievous feel to him. So seeing him eventually join in the big conflict, wearing his, like, red and black priest frock, and just jumping around and teleporting and kicking people is really satisfying.
I think Kurt was the standout character of this for you. For me, it was really Kate Pryde, Kitty, grown up. Because, Shadowcat is kind of the center of the initial Days of Future Past story. And in this, it's very much about her daughter. And one of the things I've really loved is seeing the way Kate Pryde developed in the background. The choices she's made, the trade-offs she's made, the thresholds she's crossed to get to where she is as a revolutionary.
Right. And that's one thing this issue especially really addresses, which is how far people are willing to go to protect those they love, to take care of those they care about, what kind of moral compromises they're willing to make, and what sort of things they're willing to do that might even betray that trust and lose them, those self-same people.
Yeah, Ultimate X-Men I've mentioned is not my favorite universe, but I really love Ultimate Kitty Pryde. And this Kate Pryde reminds me of a lot of the things that are touchstones for me about that version of the character in really good ways.
Mm-hmm. And the other character I'm really enjoying here is our sort of focal character, that being Kate and Colossus's daughter, Chrissy. She's so much like her mother, but she's also so much like her father. She's this wonderful mix of compassion and brilliance and rebelliousness and community. She doesn't quite know who she wants to be, what she wants to be, and yet she's being forced into this focal, almost messianic role just because she's one of the last born mutants on Earth. And so seeing how she navigates that and seeing the elements of her parents' personality come through as she does has been very satisfying. Marguerite Bennett is very deft in her sort of fusion of those traits into an entirely new character.
Yeah, she's really believable as both a teenager and a hero. You know, you mentioned Bennett, and a lot of what we've talked about had to do with characterization and the narrative portrayal of characters. And I want to take a minute to talk about Norton and Placencia because, man, the artwork on this book is just spot on. Norton and Placencia as a team specifically remind me of Romita at his best.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Of that look and that style, you know, and with a lot of the same, actually kind of a fusion of a lot of my favorite things about Burns Smith and Romita. Mm-hmm. On X-Men, like a lot of the action, but also a lot of the heart and a lot of the expressiveness of someone like Smith. And, you know, we talk a lot about comics as sort of a fusion, a fundamentally collaborative medium, and I think the best books are ones where you couldn't take away any one piece of the creative team and still have the story feel the way it does. And this is definitely one of those. And, you know, we talk a lot about Bennett, we really love her writing, but I don't want to underplay Norton and Placencia's relevance to that, because really this is a book that is all about the sum of its parts.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Secret Wars obviously is a finite event, both in terms of the continuities we're playing with, but also in most cases the creative teams. Mm-hmm. And that seems like a damn shame, because seeing these three on like an in-continuity X book after Secret Wars is over would be incredible. I like the creative teams we have on the new stuff for the most part, but them being added to it would only be a good thing.
Yeah, man, I'm glad that Bennett's going to be around on Marvel, but I was really hoping that she was going to end up one of the central architects of the X line. And I mean, that's a development I'd still love to see in future years.
There's still time.
Next up, we've got a story from one of the Secret Wars anthology titles. That's Secret Wars Battleworld number 3, and the story is 1,000 Cuts, written by Ivan Brandon, drawn by Aaron Conley, and colored by Ryan Brown. This is a Wolverine story. Actually, it's a Wolverines story.
So many Wolverines,
and it's fun. I feel like this is a story that never quite gets past its concept. Like, someone sat down and said, okay, you know what would be awesome? If a bunch of Wolverine, like all the Wolverines, had to fight. And like there was one of them who was super peaceful. And then it just kind of peters out.
That said, I do love the fact that this whole Wolverine fight, while we don't see its full justification, it is run by sort of like a pirate radio arena master Mojo.
Yeah.
Which, why? Why not?
Why not?
Mojo just does stuff like that.
Well, I mean, this is Battleworld. This is what the Secret Wars anthology titles are all about, is taking, you know, saying, let's have these two characters fight, let's run with it. You know, who cares? It's half a story. And I'm down with that. Like, I think in another book I would have been disappointed with this. Here, it's fun. There's not a lot of payoff, but there also doesn't really need to be, because this book is all about throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I'm fine with that. The art is really fun. The art is fantastic, man. Mm-hmm. It is so expressive and it's silly. I also really actually enjoyed the other story in here. The other main story, there are two. There's a really short Ant-Man one, but Fistful of Chongas is by Ryan Ferrier and drawn by Loan Forever, and it's a Deadpool story, but the important part, for me at least, is that it's also a Devil Dinosaur story, and literally everything is improved by inclusion of Devil Dinosaurs, so including Secret Wars.
And Deadpool does say Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon at one point, and anybody who references that terrible Die Hard TV edit is good in my book,
right,
as much
Deadpool
as I'm not a Deadpool fan.
Fundamentally funnier PG than R to me.
Mm-hmm, I would agree. But I do, again, want to come back to the art on the Wolverine story, because it's got this degree of, like, sloppiness and grunginess that just works so well for too many Wolverines and, you know, assorted viscera and exaggerated facial expressions. For a story like this, the artist could not have been better picked.
Conley is messy and expressive and cartoony. And yeah, when you have 30 Wolverines fighting in an arena, you need to be super cartoony and you need to get into the fun part of it. And Conley does, man. Conley and Brown are really, really solid here. And again, see, that's what it comes back to for me. Like, this isn't a story with much of an arc. It's not really a story with much payoff. But I don't care, because it's fun. And that's really all I want from a story that's about 30 Wolverines fighting. So, Miles, what's our issue of the week?
Our issue of the week is the only one that's a full issue in this case, which is Years of Future Past number 3. The creative team continues to just kill it. They take a middle issue and make it just as engaging as the first couple. They make me want to see more. It's really everything an issue should be. As an individual issue, it's not going to be the most memorable thing in the world, but comics are a serial medium. It's part of a greater work, and it handles that really well.
I'd like to also officially award an honorable mention for pick of the week to the debut of Storm's cinematic mohawk.
Yes, I'm totally down with that.
Sweet.
What about our panel of the week?
Our panel of the week is from the Battleworld story, and it is 2 Wolverines. And I think a kind of a great encapsulation of the things I loved most about this story. It's just a lot of fun, and those faces are fantastic.
They're so exaggerated and great, and they make me very happy.
I mean, look at these dudes. Are you not happy to see these dudes in your comics? You should be.
And their violence. Huzzah, violence. That is it for this week. Thanks for watching.
If you like what you've seen here, please check out our podcast, Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men. New episodes go up every Sunday at rachelandmiles.com, also on iTunes and Stitcher, and this week we have a relative rarity, and that is the second of a two-parter.
Yes, indeed. Last time we covered the Uncanny X-Men and New Mutants side of the Mutant Massacre. This time it's X-Factor along with some Power Pack and Thor. It's depressing, it's dramatic, there's character development, there's people going down into the sewers again and again, even when they totally shouldn't. Check it out, it's good stuff.
That podcast, these video reviews, and everything at rachelandmiles.com are brought to you by our rad Patreon supporters. We are an entirely listener-supported and ad-free project. If you want to become one of the fine folks who makes this possible, you can do that at the link either above or below, depending on where you're watching this video.
In the meantime, we will see all of you, supporters and not, back in Battleworld next week, and possibly there will be 30 Wolverines, all stabbing and stabbing and stabbing.
We can only hope.
Snicked.
You know how Silent Hill 2 has the dog ending?
Yeah.
I want Secret Wars, like, as a whole, to have a tiger ending.
Like they take off Doom's mask, and instead of it being that weird messed up face, it's just a tiger in there?
No, like there's a door, and there are tigers, and they're pulling all the levers.
Oh, so exactly like Silent Hill 2.
Yes, but it's tigers.
I knew it all along.
Yeah.
Tigers.
Tigers.